Wow.
Mikkel, how much time has it been
wow.
since we were here in the studio last?
160 hours, 24 minutes and some seconds. And I know this to be a fact because I forgot to turn off my stopwatch.
No. That's not what happened. What happened is that you set a countdown because you just couldn't wait.
No, exactly. I was so excited.
And then, during the weekend, you looked at this. It's a little bit, some people have a Christmas calendar.
Yeah.
You have just a countdown.
No, that's true. And the thing is, I'm going on holiday. How will I function? I'm just going to, sit on the beach and just thinking about podcasting.
Yeah.
Be like, aw.
No, but you will then try and get your motivation up by sneak peeking on your phone and seeing the counter, run down. It's like,
when am I back? I
can't wait for it.
This is how committed we are. To this show. But we also have a lot of fun while learning. I think that's the beauty of it.
I don't have any fun here. This is all just fake.
This is really the longest onboarding program I've ever had. When you think about it, yeah. I could switch now from marketing to revenue operations if I wanted to, and I'd be a pro.
Yeah.
I'd be a pro.
Maybe this is what this podcast should be called. It's just the longest onboarding you ever.
No, exactly. But I mean, and I think also what's important is to take stock as you onboard. How satisfied are you actually with the job and all that stuff, right? I'm nailing it. Those segues.
No, I know. It's perfect.
We called it employee satisfaction, and we used ESAT points whenever, we had to make a decision we knew would hurt a little bit.
Some people literally call it NPS, by the way.
Yeah, it's a thing. So how likely they are to recommend a job there. Cool. But that's actually what we're going to get in today. Today, we're going to talk about NPS, so Net Promoter Score. There's a few problems with it, how it's being used. And fortunately enough, we're going to get into some alternates to fix it. That's it today.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, I was obviously researching this as I like to do because it's onboarding, right? I need to learn stuff before I can really talk. Yeah, it's my homework. And one of the things, and also just what I've experienced myself, is you usually have a dashboard in every conceivable room at a SaaS company. And then you have something that's focused on the customers. And there's always NPS blown up. And then a lot of focus on, the NPS score. It's so important. We think it has an influence on our ability to retain customers. It's just not true. That's not what you use it for.
Yeah. I think we should, going back a little bit in time here. So who invented this thing? Yeah. Obviously, it's a big analyst house to sell reports, ebooks, and consulting hours. Gartner, I think it was Gartner.
Yeah, I think so.
Gartner invented this in the 80s or something like this. It's pretty old actually. They invented it to actually figure out what is the likelihood of word of mouth, right? Kind of the likelihood that some of your consumers, right? This is actually a consumer play. Some of your consumers are, how likely are they to bring up, the new toothpaste they just bought in a conversation somewhere else and be like, you know what? Toothpaste from that brand, it's just the fucking best.
Totally recommend.
Yeah.
But you know what's so funny? We live in this very innovative space of tech and SaaS. And what do? We go back to the 90s and find a kick-ass framework to measure word of mouth.
That's it. But also, we haven't come up with anything better yet.
No,
so,
that's true.
Until we get to the solution, of course. Yeah. But, this whole measuring word of mouth digitally, I mean, it's like, I'm sorry. It's, I'm a big fan of all of those attribution software kind of guys. But that piece, they're all claiming they can kind of do it, but they can't. They simply cannot.
Yeah, but then you have the self-reported, which this kind of leans a bit into, right, the NPS. But yeah. So, I mean, I also know we have a few stories around basically gaming NPS as a metric.
Yep.
So there's all kinds of, there's a way to define NPS, but then there's also a way to execute it.
Yeah. So what I like about NPS, obviously it's a tangible number. We like numbers.
Yeah.
And that number gives you something good, something bad.
Like your age.
Yeah, exactly. But what's bad about it, like your age, is you can't really do anything about it.
No.
So it's very not really actionable. The result that comes out of it. Obviously you you see this number is bad, this number is good.
Yeah.
And you roll this number up to the board and they're like, this is not good, guys. You need to kind of make it better. But it's really unclear actually for the leadership team and even for the CS team, for the product team, what do we actually need to do in order to improve it, right? And then, once we've done it, can we then actually see NPS grow? And it's very fluffy, those two things in between. And again, many times they are seen as churn predictors or, leading indicator to churn. It's not what it was invented for at all. It was word of mouth, it's net promoter score, promoting your product, not retaining your product.
And I think just to underscore it, we're going to put in a source for this episode. We don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of that, but there's no data so far, at least, to back the claim that NPS equals retention.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. Sorry.
Well, so just to phrase that a little bit differently, there is data that backs that NPS and churn are not correlated.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And Gainsight, Nick Mehta's companies basically kind of put this out, and I think that's pretty interesting, right? And then there are some more theoretical things, at least the next one here that I really kind of don't like about it. It's to a degree self-correcting. So if let's just say you measure the NPS of a cohort, it's like cohort.
Yeah.
That must be more scientific than just NPS, right? So, but if you measure the NPS of a cohort, what's going to happen? Your NPS is going to go up, which by the way is a good thing. So the higher it is, the better it is. And the reason why it's going to go up, whatever you do, is because the people, and there's a little bit of correlation maybe in here, but the people that don't like you, they will just leave the cohort.
Yeah.
Eventually they will leave, and you will be stuck or left with, some happy folks, and you ask them, how happy are you? And, how likely are you kind of to promote this thing? And they're probably going to say, it's going to be great, right? So that's why it's also, self-correcting or, gets better over time, right? And the one that I ran in myself, not that I came up with this, but it's you can game it really nicely. So for people that maybe don't know, every so it's a 1 to 10 kind of scale, and if you select, I want to say 8, 9, and 10, it's positive. If you get I think it's 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, it's 6, 7, 8 is neutral.
Neutral, so 9 and 10 is positive.
Yeah.
And then, 1 to 5 is negative.
Yeah.
So it's obviously leaning in one direction, right? And many people don't know this, obviously. And many people that take that NPS also don't know this. And when they say like, how likely are you? I kind of like this thing, but, maybe a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Means you're not net promoting anything.
No.
In the score, you can come up with a 0. Which is fair, by the way. It makes total sense, at least kind of in that, to that degree. The problem is, though, that one way of gaming it, I've seen that, you just color code the scale.
Yeah.
So you basically make everything up until 6 red.
Yeah.
Everything kind of up until 8 is gray or something like that, or yellow or whatever, and then only 9 and 10 is green.
Yeah.
So you end up with, you could have asked the same questions. That is like, do you like us? Are you neutral, or do you not like us? So basically, kind of, it's almost you create a C set, right? Customer satisfaction out of it, not a net promoter score in that sense. And that's like, it's this is not the way this should be being used.
No. I also received one at some point from my bank, and the email they sent it out with an email. But the email they sent out, the subject line was, "Tell us how great your experience was with the bank."
Yeah.
So it was just already their bias towards like certain words.
Yeah.
I think the other hilarious thing is actually, so I'm gonna go on holiday with kids. And they could totally ask, would you recommend?
Wait, you're going to go on holiday
Yeah,
now?
sorry. But so they could totally ask, are you going to recommend this hotel, child-friendly hotel? I'm going to go like, well, it kind of depends to you, Tony. Sure, because you have kids. But to Bart on the team. He doesn't have any kids. Like, no, I would definitely not recommend going there because it's going to be mayhem, right?
Yes.
And I think NPS also doesn't account for that fact that you can, both be a detractor and a promoter at the same time.
And another interesting way to game this whole system. People probably know this. You're on your iPhone and you get a pop-up like, hey, how do you like this app?
Yeah.
And you get like a 1 out of 5 or something like that. And obviously what people did then is, so the app developers, what they did is like, depending on what you then rated, then only they ask you, okay, do you wanna leave a comment on the App Store?
Yeah.
Makes sense as a tactic, makes sense. The thing is, people are doing this with their NPS as well. It's like, do you like us? Yes, no? Yes? Oh, here's an NPS.
Yeah.
No? Okay. Bye.
It's like a honeypot for bad. Yeah.
But it's, that is just stuff where it's clear that you're just kidding yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Right? And then, once you have all of that bad behavior, piled on top, by the way, one other one, you just stop sending the surveys to people that rated you badly. It's like, nah. Oh, 5? No, we're not going to include you anymore. I mean, there's so many ways. Or you make
it weighted, right? Yeah. It's like, if you give 1, then it's really bad. If you give a 9, then it's really good. And no one is ever really going to give a 1 or 2. It's going to be few.
And all of that gaming stuff basically kind of led to, NPS being kind of really difficult to even benchmark.
Yeah.
Right? Even on the benchmarking side, it's starting to be like kind of useless because everyone is just tweaking it.
Yeah.
And I think people are tweaking it because the teams themselves are actually not using it because they ran into the same thing. It's like, it's kind of not actionable. So what do they need it for? The investors.
Yeah.
So it's basically the board, and then when they go on the street to kind of fundraise, I say like, hey, our NPS is 50.
Yeah. And I mean, we haven't even gotten into the whole like the state of mind or seasonality or peak usage of your software impacting stability, and so we could probably just do the entire episode talking about why it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But let's maybe shift into what do you do then? Right?
Solutions.
Yeah,
okay.
Solutions are so tough.
Yeah. Yes. So I think the first thing is just to get clarity on what is it that you're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Is it that you want to measure and or drive word of mouth? Or is it that you want to measure and drive retention?
Yeah.
And as we've learned, those are two different things for that specific score, right? And let's just kind of maybe dig into the first one, the retention and satisfaction of your customers.
Yeah.
Right. And, there are probably like a couple of other things you could do. It's just, our best practice, and depends a little bit on the size of your product. Actually, you know what? It actually doesn't even depend on how many customers you have and leaving and the size of ACV and stuff. The most important thing for your product managers, or for maybe even revenue operations, or for whoever is kind of working with this, talk to people. It's starting to be my main advice for every single person on the planet that works in B2B. By the way, talk to people.
Yeah.
And number one, kind of what could you be talking about? Well, number one, do an exit interview.
Yeah.
Someone churns, someone cancels, whatever it is. Try and book a call, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, make it super simple. You can have it unstructured and just say, hey, tell me what's, why do you not like this? Or you can have it structured and say like, hey, those are my 5 questions or my 10 questions I ask all the time. Try and make an effort and don't just send a survey that's usually that doesn't really work. I mean, someone is like leaving you and is like, pfft.
It's also difficult because you can't ask follow-up questions sometimes for understanding and stuff like that. So,
and I think that's almost the important piece is you want to understand.
Yeah.
You want to really understand what's going on. And the reason why I'm saying it doesn't even matter if you sell 100K tickets or 1K tickets, jump on the phone and talk to them. Try and figure it out. And they will, they have broken up with you anyway. They will be likely very candid with you.
Yeah.
They will let you know.
Brutally honest.
They will let you know why.
Yeah.
And especially, and it hurts a lot, but especially call up the ones that rage quit, all caps, something like that. And they will tell you, And in the end, you will synthesize this up and be like, oh, this is our service team. It's like, hey, I had this problem. I tried to find a button, blah, reached out, got an answer back a week later for which browser are you using? I mean, and it might be kind of those things, right? And that's then the story. And then you can take that.
Yeah.
You're literally going to learn something here. And then you can say like, okay, this happens all the time. Let's try and fix it, right? And from each of those interviews, you're going to learn something that basically going to crush all of those internal, BS. It's like, oh, what should we do? Oh, we could maybe hire more service folks. We can maybe kind of build this feature. We can maybe do all of these things. But what should we do? We don't know.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk to them, it will be super crystal clear because you take that anecdote, you take that story, and maybe even those stats around it, you will take them into the management meeting. It's like, hey, what people are hating the most are those 3 things.
Yeah.
So guess what? Those should be the 3 things we're attacking. And what's even better about that is it's not necessarily that you will come out and be like, oh, we need to hire more service folks. It could just be like, hey, we're responding too slowly. Yes, maybe, hiring service folks is the right thing. But it could also be we asked too many stupid questions. Or we asked them to fill in this questionnaire to kind of get on the call, and then we ask the same question anyway because our systems are integrated.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be so many different things that are at odds here, and talking to people will give you a really nice understanding. It's this thing over here. Yeah. This is where it's breaking, and that's where you need to start and attack it.
So I think there's 2 interesting dimensions. One is the rage quitter. It's not about convincing them to, reconcile the relationship. It's about understanding why they quit, right? I think it's super important to make that clear. They will have to be 2 separate conversations if you want to remedy the relationship to some degree, which is normal, right?
Yeah, we're not talking about a rescue squad.
No.
So in telco subscriptions, when you quit, you literally get a call from that telco, and they're trying to kind of get you back. And if you play this game really well, they'll give you like a crazy discount, by the way. Not sure if anyone tried this, but they have a specific team with like infinite discounts to go out and retain people. This is not the tactic here. I mean, if that's what it turns into, good for you, but that's not the tactic here.
And I think the other reflection was if you then start doing it and want to distill those insights and learning onwards, I think it's also super important to be clear on, hey, this person I'm going to talk with, was this the core ICP that, has a good retention rate and so forth, just to have that nuance in there as well. Cool.
Another one, talk to them when they are at the highest endorphin level possible. Kind of talk to them when they close win. Have a post, contract signature call with them, which is not the salesperson or someone else that was involved in this, kind of a third party entering. And ask them why they bought in the first place.
Yeah.
And you know what? That will give you a hint also why people are quitting, because maybe they're not actually achieving what they bought in the first place. And obviously, you don't want to do it like this one customer quit because of we had this interview. You want to find it out in general, and it's going to be awesome for your messaging. Yeah. It's going to be awesome for your website. It's going to be awesome for your sales stack. It's going to be, it's going to be awesome for so many other things as well than just the, retention word of mouth side. It's really also, I hesitated on this one a little bit, but actually, I had this conversation with, Antonio, sales rep, and he really convinced me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hesitation. Okay, how can we remove that even, by using on the website to kind of, kick those objections already there, right? So can totally recommend that. And again, it doesn't matter if you have a 100K ticket or 500 euro ticket. You just do it more randomly with the smaller tickets. Kind of call these guys up, see what's going on. Then, maybe you take this one on the survey side.
Yeah. So I mean, in retail, it's actually super normal to do surveys. So they will do a couple of things, right? They will have the standard, you post, there are 3 buttons when you leave the store. How happy or satisfied are you kind of with the experience, right?
It's so that's the literal airport thing.
Yeah, so the airport thing, right? But they will also do a couple of other things, actually. So they will do mystery shoppers. So they will hire people to go and do certain things in the store to relay back what was the experience, right? Yeah. Think about, for example, McDonald's, right? They will ask you if you order a menu, hey, do you want the large, right? And if they don't do that, the sales reps, they're gonna, lose out on revenue. So it's super important to them to maintain that level of standard, right?
Yes. And then, lastly, obviously you can look at some numbers, some data. Like, let's not forget about that. And that can be usage, it could be retention, it could be by cohort, by segment, and so forth. I mean, there's endless stuff that you can look at.
Yeah.
I think what a good learning is from the whole PLG crowd is think about your product also as a funnel.
Yeah.
And they don't like it because it's a flywheel and, all of that wonderful stuff. But your product is just a fucking funnel.
Yeah.
And think about what people need to achieve in order to move through the steps down the funnel. And in your case, it might be, onboarding completed, obviously, and maybe implementation before. But it's also like, are they clicking this button often enough? Are they logging in on a weekly basis, or is it just monthly? And, when they log in, what do they do? And, figure out what this, and I think in PLG world is, the aha moment.
Yeah.
Then they call it the eureka moment, which I don't understand actually anymore. So, maybe forget about that.
Yeah.
But then they have something they call habit forming.
Yeah.
Where then suddenly this thing that the product that you're using is starting to become part of your daily, weekly, monthly, whatever habit.
Yeah.
And that then becomes much harder to break afterwards, right? Kind of undoing a habit is really difficult. Forming a habit is really powerful. So that's kind of how they're thinking about it. And if you kind of structure the let's just say the usage cycle, like a funnel, you will see how customers move through the funnel and then ideally hit this late stage of, hey, they have formed a habit.
Yeah.
They can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's going to be really difficult. And then lastly, obviously, create some kind of offboarding signals.
Yeah.
So for MailChimp, it was download the email list. That was their signal.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It's like, uh-oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be hitting this button.
Yeah.
In the social media management company I worked at, we had kind of because all of the APIs were public and we obviously were pulling those in.
Yeah.
And we monitored all our customers' postings.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we were also posting, the software was posting on their behalf. And we monitored for postings being done by non-native apps or ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if Hootsuite suddenly popped up on one of our customers' channels, we're like, red flag, we need to do something about it, because then we knew they were in a trial, right?
Yeah.
And so forth, right? There might be a couple of other things. And that is kind of the very last stage of your funnel, where you should just, when they're moving into this, you need to figure out how to fix this.
Yeah. I also know, if you're on the classic sales-led motion, one of the things that, and I don't think many people are actually doing it, but you buy a piece of software to have a specific impact, right? Whether it's efficiency or something else, doesn't really matter, but there's usually a very specific impact you want to drive. And then actually having that and being able to follow up on the customer success or experience side, and actually track, are we actually delivering against that impact that the customer needed?
So Gainside, they're obviously the CS thought leader, and obviously, whenever they're thought leading something, they're product building as well. And one of the things that they actually have is, I forgot what it was. It's kind of something, probably success criteria, something like that it's called. And there's always 2 or 3 per customer that they want you to put in. So what does the customer want to achieve?
Yeah.
And then actually they check in with their customers on a regular basis. Are you achieving, those 3 top things, right? And if not, then let's create a success plan.
Yes.
Of how we can get you to achieve these things, right? So all kinds of very tactical advice in this thing. This is all on the retention side, by the way. So since we're NPS and it's not about retention, it's really about word of mouth. And number one, how can you get more word of mouth? Well, make it super easy for people to be able to pitch you.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Teach them ideally on the website and so forth. It's almost like minimum viable positioning or something like that.
Yeah.
Make it easy for people to be able to understand what you do, and then, pitch it to someone else.
Yeah, I think Leah kind of said it when we talked with her, right? If I cannot pitch it, how can there be word of mouth?
Yes.
It's that simple, actually.
Yes. And then obviously, whether it's in the product or somewhere else, create ways to share easily. Make it super easy for someone to share your stuff.
Yeah.
And again, this is obviously then a little bit of a digital play because it's a button, and then now we can track it and put in the email address here. A lot of folks are doing incentives for just showing up for a meeting.
Yeah.
Right. There's $50 gift card and blah blah blah. You know what? Do the same thing for referrals, or start with that instead. You know, it's probably better. Which then basically helps you to, if you do a referral or 3 referrals, then you get, something in return.
Yeah.
We actually did this with our revenue letter recently, and it's, working quite nicely actually.
Yeah, we're getting...
and, those are ways how you can try and basically push people to refer.
Yeah.
Or nudge them rather. And provide a little bit of an incentive thing around it.
But I think the cool thing, so if we take this simple example of our revenue letter that we send out weekly, right? I think the cool thing is not just that we're acquiring new subscribers. That's great, right? It's like 10, 15% of something of the acquisition. But the cool thing is it's a strong signal. Someone was actually willing to recommend it and we can track it, which is the most important piece, right? Yeah. And I think that's super powerful. Like so at home, we're using HelloFresh. Its equivalent in US is Blue Apron. And they're doing crazy referrals. They will literally give away, I think, 1 or 2 weeks of food. Yeah. Right? So they're just literally eating the cuck that way by just, great, by just giving it away like that. So it's also a compelling offer and they can track it, right? They can literally track
No, but that's also, so obviously, these referrals are for free, right?
Yeah.
So you can either go in and check what you're paying per MQL, check what you're paying per SQL, check what you're paying per opportunity, check what you're paying per one customer. To a degree, you can tap into those buckets and finance the referral acquisition incentive out of.
Yeah.
You can say, okay, for us, on LinkedIn, it costs us $100 to get an MQL or an SQL, whatever. Yeah. Well, that's kind of your budget now for, driving referrals. And in that case, it might even be better because the selection, the targeting has been done by someone that already knows what you're doing and then referring to someone that they know really well. So, that's how you should potentially be thinking about it instead.
Yeah. Okay.
Then one crazy last thing.
Yep.
Because, we have still a couple of seconds here on the clock before you need to reset it for 160 hours. It's something that HBR, so Harvard Business Review, is calling earned growth rate. And obviously, these guys are just coming up with random stuff all the time. And it really is basically your net retention plus new revenue that you got from referring sources, basically, through referrals.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to say it.
Yes.
I'm not going to dive into, the way they calculated it. Funny thing is, we did this actually 5 or 6 years ago already. We called it, we weren't as cool as HBR here. They call it EGR, earned growth rate.
Yeah.
We just called it NRR plus.
Yeah.
And the way that happened, by the way, is we started incentivizing the CSM team to do, to hit their NRR target. And that's also one of the reasons why I would not say that people should be incentivizing this. But they were basically kind of coming with hey, we're doing all of these other things. I should be incentivized for all of that as well.
Yeah.
It's like, and, amongst other things, what they did really nicely and successfully so, they tracked people that switched their jobs. Yeah. Like their counterparts switched jobs to somewhere else. And then we're like, hey, do you want to actually also buy it there? And we basically kind of then allowed them not for financial reasons, but for compensation reasons to count that stuff into their net retention rate that they were comped on. So NRR plus. And the same thing actually for referrals. So if they got us, referrals coming out of this, when they asked someone, do you know someone? And money was coming out of this, they could kind of put this against their net retention target. Yeah. So it was pretty powerful, and it was extremely powerful because it was always like a full-on deal that was closed, right? They basically could reverse the churn.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's why they're really eager on doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're reporting to the board, you can't call some of that stuff, net retention rate.
No.
But now you can call it EGR.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I mean, conclusion-wise, right? There's 2 outcomes we discussed here. It's either retention, which you need to do separate of NPS, or there's referrals, where you can totally do NPS, but there's also other things you can do.
That's absolutely it. Mikkel.
So, Tony, by the way, I had some time to think.
Got it.
And if I get Chris Walker, I need you to get Jacco van der Kooi from Winning by Design. I need you to get him. I would love to get him on the show.
Okay. If I get Jacco, you get Hillary Clinton.
Come on. Let's start there.
Yeah,
Then we go.
Okay. Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I'll simmer on it.
Or you know what? If she passes, maybe Obama.
I don't think he has too much in his schedule anyway. I'll reach out to him.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful, Mikkel.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for listening. Bye.